Corruption Watch says President Cyril Ramaphosa should not yet consider announcing his resignation due to a lack of adequate information available to the public on the Phala Phala farm saga. This follows the release of a panel report which found that Ramaphosa has a case to answer for the alleged 2020 burglary at his farm in Limpopo. For more on the story, we're joined via Zoom by Karam Singh, Executive Director at Corruption Watch. A very good morning to you and thanks for making the time. What do you make of the Phala Phala panel report and your assertion that the president shouldn't resign just yet?
Thank you, and thanks very much for having me on the program. I think the report is an important development. It's an important outcome of a democratic process. I think it's obviously of great concern that we find ourselves in a situation where it's found that the president has a case to answer to for potential violations of the Constitution, of South African law, of his oath of office. I think what the position that we're taking is that this process must now unfold, that we don't have sufficient information to really understand the ultimate accountability in this matter, and that if the president were to resign, he should be resigning in the name of accountability, in the name of democratic processes, in the name of good governance, and not as a result of politics or as a result of the findings of an interim process. It took a lot to get to this stage where we would have these types of rules where Parliament would be activated to exercise its oversight function. If we think about the analogous situation of the public protector, it's important that the public protector has been facing this inquiry and that we get a clear recommendation following the conclusion of that inquiry. And I think the country should be afforded the same opportunity in this case.
What do you mean it's a result of politics? A very legal, a very credible legal person chaired this process. Where do you find the holes that you're poking that got you to the assertion that this is politics?
No, I'm not saying this is politics or that there are holes. I'm saying that the call for the president to resign on the basis of this interim report is somewhat somewhat inappropriate, and the timing of it doesn't flow. The direct outcome of this report shouldn't lead to a resignation. The direct outcome of this report should be a parliamentary debate, a decision to establish an inquiry, and then a full public investigation where we understand exactly what happened, including the president's version of events. At the end of that inquiry, if there's a recommendation that impeachment should proceed, then absolutely the president would be within his rights to say, I resign in this moment because of this finding. I don't want the impeachment inquiry to proceed. And in the interest of the country and in the interest of democratic governance, I'm prepared to step aside. That's not what we're hearing in this moment. We're hearing a clamor from political parties, from others to say the president can no longer exercise his role or his function with this kind of a cloud over his head. And I think that's challenging for us, given the precedent, as we've seen in the historical insert, that while we want to hold our leaders to very high standards, we also want high standards when it comes to their removal from office. And our leaders need to be above reproach. They need to conduct their activities with high levels of impunity, and the president's bona fides on this have been called into question. But it doesn't directly flow from this that the president is unable to continue to fulfill his role, and that he has an opportunity to actually engage in this public inquiry about whether he should be impeached. We also have the Hawks investigation, which must unfold, and we have the public protector's investigation, which also must give us some findings and recommendations.
So Karam, I hear what you're saying, that we should give the processes the space to unfold, but although the report came out 2 days ago, the conversation has been in the public discourse for about since June. How is Corruption Watch, how have you been engaging with the contents of this complaint?
Well, I mean, obviously we studied the affidavit from Mr. Fraser, and we've followed the events, and we've made appropriate statements at different stages. But I mean, you know, this is not the way in which we ultimately want our leaders to be held accountable as a result of dossiers from implicated persons. So, I mean, the origin of this complaint is very problematic. But obviously, as the information has unfolded, it's clear that the president does have a case to answer to. We've tried to follow the various responses of the president to the allegations. They have not been complete. They haven't been completely coherent. And the president has never taken the public into his confidence to say, this is what I did. These are the mistakes that I may have made. And this is why I feel that I can continue to lead the country, because I feel like I haven't done anything wrong. We haven't heard that from the president. So I don't want the president to resign in silence, to resign under a cloud where it feels like he's been pushed out prior to processes playing out without a clear understanding, a clear explanation from him about exactly what happened.
How do you respond to people who feel that Corruption Watch is practicing a double standard here?
What kind of double standard are we practicing? I mean, you have to take all of these cases on their merits based upon the individual circumstances. So we're arguing for a principle of accountability. We're arguing against impunity. We're arguing for democratic processes to unfold. This is no different than the type of stance we took in response to allegations against the public protector. It's anything far from anything but a double standard.
So as we speak to you, we're awaiting that meeting with the ANC's National Executive Committee that's expected around 2 p.m. This afternoon. Just your thoughts about what the outcomes might be.
It's very difficult for me to give an opinion on that. I think it's possible that there may be a request for president to step aside. There might be a question around the sequencing of his step aside in terms of whether he resigns now prior to the party conference or whether he holds on. So I assume that it would be some kind of a negotiated settlement amongst the leadership, but it's very difficult. This is a very dynamic situation, and one is not privy to how these discussions take place. So it's difficult to speculate.
Karam Singh, thank you so much for speaking to us. Karam is the Executive Director at Corruption Watch.